We are live. We are live. We are live. Welcome to the All Even Podcast. Welcome to our Met stream that we love to do every so often when things are going on. I am Barry Grant Jr. That is my good friend Tom Greer. Tom, what's up, man?
What's going on? Really happy, really excited to be here. I just got done watching Giants football all day, so I've been looking forward to this, like the bright spot of my day.
Well, I mean, listen, at least you get to see them score some touchdowns. I'm a Jets fan, so you understand the beating that we took today.
Yeah.
Yeah. But listen, I like it. If we can get the first round pick or first overall pick, I'm okay with that. Keep losing bad too.
Yeah.
We do have a nice, great guest on the show today. Welcome Jaron from NYM Mets, NYM News. Like, you have one of the biggest platforms for the Mets on Instagram. On X as well. You're very, very detailed in regards to like all the information, all the news, all the rumors that comes out there, man. So salutes to you. Thanks for coming on here. We definitely been talking over the last few days about what's going on, and you're putting your stuff out there. We're both voicing our displeasure with what's going on with the Mets. So, definitely go ahead and share your socials.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on, Barry. And, I'm happy to be on this and join you guys. Obviously, a lot to get into in Mets world, and I'm like you, a struggling Jets fan here as well. So the Mets was like it was already going to be a long winter with my Jets. Hopefully the Knicks blow in the end, but the Mets breaking our heart in October, and then just a few months later in December was like another. Actually, we didn't even get to October. Sorry, September, and then breaking our heart in December. I don't even know what to say. We'll get into that, but wow. I mean, I'm still in a state of shock. I think that the entire Mets fan base has to at least be in some level of shock. Right? I don't know how we could even get by this one, but
100%
get into for sure.
100%. It's this is pretty much our post-mortem show. We're still feeling the shrapnel for what's going on. So it's one of those things where we'll go ahead and discuss it. Thoughts about your feelings when Nimmo got traded? Like, what was your first initial reaction? Because there were some rumblings and some things that were going on in regards to like Nimmo may get dealt if the right deal comes along, if he does agree to it, because he did have a full no trade, right? So what was your thoughts about when the news came out that Nimmo was actually on his way to Texas?
Yeah, arguably the beginning of our downfall this offseason, or you could start at the trade deadline, which was a complete failure,
right?
Or you can even start it with Antoine Richardson and Jeremy Hefner leaving and going to the Braves. Anywhere you look, there's just been chaos and disastrous outcomes, starting from the very top with David Stearns. So Brandon Nimmo, automatically I was on guard in terms of how I feel about David Stearns and this current Mets regime, looking at the 2025 collapse. And a lot of it actually, which was caused by Stearns' inability to build a pitching rotation, and then seize the gaps in terms of filling the areas that you need at the trade deadline, failed across the board. So the way I was thinking, okay, everything that could have went wrong has went wrong. What's next? And then they followed up with losing Hefner and Antoine Richardson to the Braves, which you could argue what was the reasoning behind that. A lot of people are saying it had to do with money. They didn't want to pay Antoine Richardson what he thought he deserved he had. And it seems to be a common theme, right, leading up to the Brandon Nimmo trade. They dumped Nimmo, and I'm thinking in that moment, why did we just trade Brandon Nimmo for a 35-year-old second baseman, a position that we don't really struggle in defensively? So if you want to use the whole defensive excuse, we didn't really struggle that much defensively at second base. We were right up there metric-wise with the Rangers, even with a Gold Glove year out of Marcus Semien.
Right.
And then on top of that, now we're taking on a guy who'll be making more money in the next 3 years than Nimmo. Nimmo was one of our best run producers in terms of actually driving guys in. Like Soto and Lindor got on base a lot, which was great. But thanks to Pete Alonso and Brandon Nimmo, who we just lost, you take those guys away from that 2025 team, how are they even really scoring runs once runners are on base? So, obviously I did not like the Nimmo trade from the beginning because I don't think it actually solved anything from the Mets. There hasn't been a single move made by Stearns this offseason where it wasn't immediately followed up with, okay, what the fuck? What's next now? Every whether it was Brandon Nimmo, right, or Devin Williams, or the Edwin Diaz thing, like everything that has went wrong this offseason, you've immediately reacted with, okay, now what? And any move Stearns has made, your immediate reaction as a fan is, what are we doing now? What? So, he could keep pushing. He could keep pushing the goalpost all he wants, but he needs to address the starting rotation too. So we're making all these moves, all this noise. You got to shake up the core, which is still the closest team we've seen in the National League to beating the Dodgers in the last 2 years. We were the closest in 2024. There was nothing wrong with the core. It was the fact that the starting rotation was a disaster and also led to a bullpen imploding as well. So, yeah, I know I just laid out a lot at you guys to begin this Mets therapy session, but that's pretty much how I feel about the moves. And yeah, Nimmo was the beginning of the end. I could even say Richardson going to the Braves was the beginning of the end, or Jose Iglesias leaving after the OMG and all the good vibes last year. All these things just rub people off the wrong way. So yeah, just Pete Alonso was the icing on the cake, and that cake was pretty big.
Tom, you got a question? Or you want me to follow?
No, I was just gonna say, like, I don't know. I guess I kind of look at it a little differently because I loved Nimmo. Like I mentioned when me and Barry did a show after the Nimmo trade that I loved Nimmo when he got drafted just because I thought he was a really good kid, a really good player. And especially when he came up, because he got on base. He got on base regularly. I just thought that it looked like, I understand that Marcus Semien is older. I understand that Marcus Semien is going to be making more money for less years than Nimmo would be on his contract. But I would rather, even if we're not, even if we're not that much worse defensively than what the Rangers were, I would rather be better in any position. Marcus Semien, I think we saw numbers that Marcus Semien, his bat was struggling a little bit, but I think everybody playing in Texas had down numbers when they were playing at home. So I'm hoping that Marcus Semien can kind of turn it around a little bit, but I'm pretty confident that David Stearns and the Mets can get somebody better for left field defensively and offensively than Brandon Nimmo. I'm not losing my mind. I'm more losing my mind about Brandon Nimmo because of what he meant, like as a fan, like emotionally as being a fan, you know what I mean? Less than me not believing that the Mets can replace that production. You know what I mean? I am bummed about Pete. I loved Pete to no end. Again, we've mentioned before, Pete gets ragged on for his defense. I don't think it's as nearly as bad as people say. He can't throw to first base or home, but I mean, he can make a lot of the good picks. He can make some diving plays. He's serviceable, and just real quick, I know I was really bummed when Hef got fired or when Hef got the axe, but when the pitching when we're supposed to be touted for this big pitching lab that's supposed to be smarter than everybody else, and the pitching just falls to pieces, I think somebody has to fall on that. And I will definitely put some of that on Stearns, because even going into the 2025 season, I was saying we really need we need a real starter. I'm not going to rely that Sean Manaea is going to have the same year that he had the previous year. I can't do that. But I do still think when David Stearns looks at it, be like, okay, I have this pitching lab in place. I just took a scrap heap of pitchers to the NLCS and contended with the Dodgers. Why can't I do it again? And he got proven wrong, which is totally understandable. It definitely was. I don't think you were going to go very far when you're relying on Griffin Canning to making good starts. But I don't necessarily blame him for going with a similar formula that he did the year before, because it worked. It did work. And then he added Juan Soto to hopefully make the offense better, and it did a little bit, but they still just didn't hit with runners in scoring position.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is that you go back to that formula, like you said, Tom, right? It's like, okay, cool. Well, it worked last year. Let's see if we can be able to do the same thing this year. But when you strike out on virtually every single move that you made, that is virtually impossible for you to be any good the following year. Like the Siri move, disaster. Griffin Canning was probably the only one outside of all the reclamation projects that he went ahead and got that was pretty decent, right? But if you look at his like expected ERA numbers, he ran into some luck last year, right? Yeah. And then he got hurt. So all of these things, it's like that was a pitcher that's never had a winning record any time in his career. He's always been a guy that got shelled around. And sometimes your hubris, sometimes your arrogance in regards to how you think about baseball can really come back to bite you in the ass. And I do think that there's some arrogance to David Stearns in regards to how he feels baseball is supposed to be, how a team is supposed to be built. I've seen some marginal success that he's had in Milwaukee. Okay, cool. But those teams never got to the NLCS. So again, it's one of those things where it's just like
they did once actually, and then they lost to the Dodgers as Brewers.
Yes,
You've never been able to get over that hump.
Yeah, like you're not getting right. Yeah, you're not getting over the hump. So it's one of those things. It's like what dubbed you the king of knowing how to build a team, a successful team in New York. That's the biggest thing that bothers me about David Stearns is that we have seen more failures than we've seen successes. And you want the fan base to be able to say, okay, we'll keep trusting you to be able to keep doing the wrong thing or how you building it. We haven't seen much success out of what you have brought to the table. 2024, like we talked about, that was Epler's team that you marginally made some additions to that went ahead and sparked a run. 2025 was pretty much all you, and you failed miserably. And then when the hitting is not producing, instead of you looking at yourself and saying, okay, well, do we get rid of do we get rid of Eric Chavez now? No. We're just going to keep him for the rest of the season. Sometimes you need to shake up your staff to just spark some change, because we're talking about one game. All it took was one game for you to be able to right the ship, get the offense rolling, and you're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So all of those things, you look at these, like as a Met fan, we're doing this postmortem. You can pinpoint certain things that happened during that season, and you said, had he just did this, maybe we're not here. Had he just did this, maybe we're not here. And those are the things that bothers me really about David Stearns, is that there's just this arrogance to him that I don't think he's earned that here to have that. If he's been successful for 5 straight years doing what he's doing here, then you've earned that arrogance. He just got here. So as Met fans, we don't need to give you any trust. We don't need to give you anything. You got to show it.
No, I agree, but he hasn't had. I don't think he's really had the opportunity to show it, because I think what makes me kind of upset about this whole situation is that we're doing this now. We're going into year 3 of David Stearns, and I mentioned it to you before we started recording. 2024 to me felt like the first year the Giants signed Brian Daboll. They thought that it was an evaluation year. The team caught fire. The team went on a kind of fluky run. And then it made the Giants buy into Daniel Jones and buy into the hype of like, oh, maybe we're closer to contending than we think. So David Stearns takes that team and is like, okay, maybe I'll make some of similar moves that I did last year. Oh, by the way, I'm bringing in Juan Soto. We should be better. And he fell flat on his face. He didn't get to. We knew from when he was in Milwaukee, and Milwaukee didn't want to trade for Pete, that David Stearns didn't want Pete Alonso. David Stearns wanted, after 2024, he wanted probably that team to fall on its face so he can have an excuse to tear it down and build a team in his image. So yeah, I'm bummed that all of the fan favorites are gone, but like, I would rather have a guy that is confident in his own convictions and is going to try and build a team in his image and what he thinks is going to be successful, instead of using guys that he just inherited when he got here. I'd rather see that and then judge him. Like if we're talking, David Stearns reshapes the Mets and does all of this, and we're going into next year and we're having a similar season that we did in 2025. Yeah, no, I'm going to be calling for this dude's head, because that's insane. You had a whole offseason to build a team that's all yours. Yeah. Now it's put up or shut up time. So
good point.
Let's see what you can do.
What you got to say about that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think another issue with David Stearns is he's stacking more unnecessary issues on top of his plate. They already majorly went backwards from 2024, missed the playoffs, expanded postseason, right? 83 wins. This was a team that needed a lot of work this offseason, especially on the pitching side. So why add replacing Pete Alonso to your plate? Why add replacing Edwin Diaz to your plate? Why add replacing Brandon Nimmo to your plate? None of those guys were the problem in 2025. None of those guys were the reason why the Mets ultimately collapsed. And those 3 guys specifically are guys that pretty much every team in the league would take tomorrow, right now, the opportunity. They were not the issue, especially Alonso and Diaz, 2 of the best players in the entire world at their position. You're not just going to replace them, especially not with Devin Williams. Even with Devin Williams, there are more arms in that back end who were available. Yeah, Ryan Helsley failed, but now we need another closer-capable guy alongside Devin Williams. So there's just so many issues that Stearns has stacked on top of his plate, and he already had a lot of things to address, especially on the pitching side.
Yeah.
And then, you say, oh, he could just replace Brandon Nimmo. Well, are you actually confident he's going to go and sign a Kyle Tucker or Cody Bellinger? Because we're always going to go back in circles here, because when you're in New York, you have Steve Cohen's checkbook. You eventually, whether it's right now, a week from now, next year, you're eventually going to have to sign the big time guy.
Agreed.
And he has proven to have no ability to do that.
Right. So let's talk about that now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that aspect right there, because we talked about our frustration in regards to letting some guys go. Okay. Now let's go ahead and just talk about David Stearns. Is like all three of us. I'm going to ask everybody here what your comfort level or confidence in David Stearns to be a negotiator and be able to land the big fish. So Jaron, go ahead first in regards to like, what do you, from a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think your confidence level with David Stearns is to land any big fish?
A 1, maybe a 0, maybe a 0. Genuinely, maybe a 0. Come on, confidence right now, after we just saw two of the best, not even just best Mets, two of the best guys on the market who are already in your system leave elsewhere. And they didn't even offer Pete Alonso. They didn't even extend him an offer. They were just done with him. And the reason why I'm even less confident now, throwing away his history of obviously not really signing too many free agents, especially guys on the level that we're talking about. And he was bailed out by Steve Cohen last year with Juan Soto and then Pete Alonso late, because Cohen was pressured to bring back Alonso at Mets fan event where people were booing David Stearns. That ticked him off last minute. They were lucky. They were fortunate that Alonso was still lurking on the market.
Right.
And they got him. They weren't going to be able to make that same mistake again after Pete Alonso proved them wrong. And that's the way Stearns handled it. He's finished second place in most guys I could remember him actually going after, even on the day that Edwin Diaz walked. He went after Kyle Schwarber, right? That was the guy he really wanted, considering he gave Schwarber an offer, not Alonso. Schwarber was essentially the pivot point. He missed out on Schwarber, didn't even extend Alonso an offer. Diaz walks, and then Alonso walks, all in the span of like 24 hours, right? And then Yamamoto, as you mentioned, that was the guy that he prepared like a whole 3-4 months for. Like that was going to be like his first big thing, first big project. You got to bring in Yamamoto, and he failed. He couldn't do it. And that was the turning point. If you look at the Mets and Dodgers like showdown here, that really was the turning point. Us not getting Yamamoto and them getting Yamamoto, a huge boost for them. And who's going to want to play here now? On top of the fact that Stearns is not willing to pull the trigger on a big contract, our culture is as toxic as it gets in terms of what people are saying around the league. The whole Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor dynamic, which where there's smoke, I think there's fire. And I've heard from people around the league that there is real smoke there. And there is a real friction in terms of that clubhouse, Stearns and Soto. It's not meshing, just like the way Derek Jeter and A-Rod never meshed. It was never an organic friendship. Seems like the same dynamic with Lindor and Soto. So everywhere you look around, you don't see any accountability, any leadership. The culture in the organization is very questionable. I am happy with the Jorge Polanco signing. We'll get into that. But in terms of landing that big time guy, I don't know. I don't know what Stearns has proven he could do.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's one of those things where we really have to assess his skills as a negotiator. Because again, the biggest thing that bothered me was, okay, you lose Diaz. That's fine, right? Not fine, but okay, what's next? You go ahead and not even offer Suarez a contract. That's what bothered me more than anything else. It's like, okay, cool. You lose your big time closer. Where is the aggression to say, all right, cool. Now we're going balls to the wall. We're going to go get Suarez. You allow him to go to the Braves. That they had a down year last year, but we all know that the Braves are going to be right back to being the Braves this season. You go ahead and add a power arm like that to the bullpen. That's a concern. And that's the thing that bothers me, is that you allow him to get to go to not, all right, Diaz goes to the Dodgers. He didn't go to the Yankees. He didn't go to the Red Sox. He went to the Dodgers, the team that you need to pass to get to the World Series. And then Suarez goes to the Braves, a team that we also have had historical problems with in our own division. So these things are concerning to me, that there's no there's no urgency to be able to offer a guy more money to keep them away from those places. Because that's a big thing for a GM too, is not because you're always trying to get fair market value. You need to maybe give a guy a little bit more just so he doesn't go there, because that's always going to be a lingering concern as a team that's in the NL East. You have the Phillies to deal with. You have the Braves to deal with. You need to offer guys and entice guys to be able to come here so that they don't go there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that David Stearns understands that, because he's not an NL East guy.
Yeah. No, I could agree
what I'm
with you.
saying?
I totally get you.
There's no, like, I understand the NL Central has its own issue, but the NL East is a beast. And if you don't make the right moves, you will fall very quickly in last place. And those are the things that he has to understand. It's year 3 now that you're here. I don't need to hear no excuses anymore. I don't care about fair market value. You care about fair market value when you're in Kansas City. When you're in New York, you have to go get the fish. And I don't care how you do it, you have to land them. That's my biggest concern with
we got to pay a Met. They always joke and say that the Yankees got to pay a Yankee tax. The Mets got to pay a Mets tax because we're the Mets. You know what I mean? We don't like, historically, we're not that perennial contender that's going to win year in, year out. I mean, again, in my lifetime, I've been alive 33 years. I can probably count on one hand the amount of times I've seen them go to the playoffs back-to-back years. You know what I mean? So
twice in their history.
Yeah. So you're going to have to pay a little bit extra to get a lot of these guys. But real quick, I just want to circle back to what you asked, like gauging 1 to 10 on how you feel David Stearns, like how confident you are that David Stearns is going to be making a move. I realistically, after how we sit today, I would probably put it like dead in the middle on a 5. And the only reason that I'm going to say that is because we're on December 14th. I acknowledge that David Stearns is doing this rebuild a year late. And all I've been hearing this whole offseason, all I've heard out of David Stearns' mouth is how they ownership group and everybody's given them all the resources that they possibly need. Money is clearly not an issue. He's been hyping up all of these prospects that they have. And he's been really, it was kind of shocking to me when he was on Hot Stove at the, was that Monday or Tuesday? Where he was saying that he was kind of surprised that they were having more trade conversations than free agent conversations. So like and then we have, which I'm sure we're going to get to later, the Padres rumors going. So I think David Stearns is trying to be really active to build this team. And I've lived through off seasons where they make those fringe moves and then they say, no, we're going to try to roll through with what we got. We got some young guys coming up. They're going to fill some holes and da-da-da-da. Like, I don't really get that. I get from what Stearns is telling me that he's more hyping these young guys up to dish them out somewhere to get some help. And, oh, by the way, if Carson Bench can come up and help in center field, that's cool. But we're not going to be relying on a bunch of rookies to come up and fill a bunch of holes that the Mets clearly have. You know what I mean? I think all the messaging that's coming from the Mets themselves, which you obviously have to take with a grain of salt, is that they're going to be active to try to make this. We're not going to sit here. They're not tanking a year. They're not punting on 2026 just for the sake of not spending money or not getting talent. They're going to do their damnedest to acquire talent to make this team better, you know? And does that happen? I have no idea, but thankfully it's December 14th and we got a little while before spring training hits.
So yeah, go ahead, Jaron.
No, I'm curious because you said the only thing you could really fault him for above everything else is they did the rebuild a year too late. My question is, why is rebuild even in our vocabulary right now? We have the richest owner in baseball. You just committed over $1 billion to Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor in their prime. And you could argue that when we had Pete Alonso, that trio is the best offensive core in Mets history, and it's not even really close. So I don't really see the point of rebuilding. I don't get that.
Because we had one, we have a new GM clearly didn't have a lot of faith in that core when he first got here. So again, right or wrong, I'm not here to say whether that's right or wrong. I'm just saying I would rather my GM build what he wants to build rather than living off of a core that you're hoping is going to succeed. And that core, sure, we got to go to the NLCS against the Dodgers, but for the most part, that core didn't win anything. You know what I mean? Like, we're still talking about the 2 times in the history of the team that the Mets have gone to the playoffs back-to-back years. Like, we're not talking about a team that's been regularly making the playoffs or being a serious contender year in and year out. Sure, we had all those guys, and it didn't really amount to anything. I'm not saying that it's Pete's fault. I'm not saying that it's Nimmo's fault. I'm not saying that it's Diaz's fault. I'm just saying we had all those players here, and I'm open to the idea of shaking it up to bring other players in to hopefully get a better result. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that you need Pete Alonso to win anything. Like, you can build a team without him.
This is a great comment right here.
The fan base has been killed though too. So
yeah,
like
but that doesn't. Yeah, but fan base. But as much as I'm a giant, I'm sorry, Barry. I don't mean. I'm so sorry. But the fan base is hurting and the fan base is upset. I'm definitely upset. I'm not happy about it. But winning fixes all that. If they make a couple of moves and the team is contending, like, sure, it's gonna suck that Pete's gone. But I mean, you're gonna show up to wins. Like, all those clubhouse distractions and all those clubhouse issues, all that gets fixed by winning.
But to Barry's point, we don't know if Stearns actually has a plan, right? Like, if you let Pete Alonso go and you're not immediately following up with his first base replacement, it doesn't really tell me you have a plan. When you miss out on Suarez after you let Diaz go, that was a guy they really wanted to get. There's no.
But all I'm saying is, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No, you're fine. We're all just confused right now. Like, whenever you even get that rebuilding word out there, it's gonna send shockwaves when you've already invested $1 billion in Soto and Lindor, and you're only one. And as I said it for a reason. The Mets are still the only real team in the National League that's challenged the Dodgers in the playoff series the last 2 years. No one's come closer to beating them, and they're the only team that could actually financially compete with the Dodgers as well.
Let's talk about this comment right here, guys.
Yeah.
So Armand says you have to question if Cohen is not just upset about missing the playoffs, but also losing money, and gave Stearns the keys to do what he wanted. So I talked to Tom about this off air, I believe, because I truly do believe that this is it right here. More than anything that we're talking about, Jaron, more than anything that we're talking about, Tom, that is it right here. Because you got to remember, Steve Cohen has owned the team for what, 5 years now, going on 6. So since he's been here, I don't think that anybody has spent more money in free agency than Steve Cohen, right? Like, he's thrown money at this team since he's been here.
$1.5 billion.
Right. So let's talk about it, right? He went to go get Scherzer. He went to go get Verlander. He threw money at that, right? He threw money at Carlos Correa. That didn't work out, but there was money that was being thrown around. We have not seen any success with him doing that. He had to go ahead and tell Stearns, hey, listen, we got to get Pete. We got to get Pete. I understand that you may not want him, but we got to get him here. We have to keep the fans happy this year, so you got to sign him, right? That was Cohen telling Stearns to do that. Cohen got the Soto deal done. That was not Stearns, right? So all of these things has Cohen's handprint on it, and the team has failed. So now he's like, all right, I've done it. I've tried to do it my way, where I'm literally just throwing money at the dartboard. You go ahead and do it your way and see what happens, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's like, we haven't been successful doing this. And there is a method to the madness, because I believe if this was Epler, I do believe that we find success again, because Epler knows how to spend the money with also being able to get fair market value. He's a combination GM style guy. Did he make mistakes? Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He made some big mistakes. But what I'm saying is that Stearns has never been in this situation. So now Cohen is like, all right, I tried to do it the big money way. You do it your way and see what happens. So this right here, Armand, is spot on. I think Cohen is being hands off because it hasn't worked the other way. And it's like, okay, we understand that this guy's out there. We understand that this guy's out there. We understand that this guy's out there. But even if we do sign those guys, we may fail anyway. So maybe we need to build it a different way and still be able to get to where we got to go. So I understand that sentiment, but I just want to hear the plan. As Met fans, me personally, I need to hear that from Cohen. I need to hear that from Stearns to say, listen, we've tried to do this method. We're trying a different method here. So just work with us, be patient, and see how the actual plan is going to come to fruition. That's what I would like to hear. But when you talk about the entire universe of players are available to us and you're penny pinching, you're still looking for fair market value, that's when Met fans feel lied to. And that's what I'm talking about. That's the frustration that most Met fans have, is that if you just be honest with us, we'll ride with you, but you have to be honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you. But again, and I would much rather David Stearns as the GM and president of baseball operations run things than have Steve Cohen sticking his hands in anything. It usually goes wrong when it just you used
Especially
to be a
when you don't
Cowboys.
know what you're doing.
You used to be a Cowboys fan. Ask like, how did you feel that
God.
Jerry Jones is the GM of that team?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just want Steve Cohen cutting checks. And that's it. Let David Stearns do whatever he's got to do to build whatever he's got to build. And then when that team succeeds or fails, we'll make like accurate assumptions then, or like make accurate points and criticisms for them then. But I think that we got to let them get to that point. You know what I mean? Like, Pete walking, Diaz walking, Nimmo walking, and not having like definitive, like, subsequent moves right after is scary and frustrating, because it's a problem with that. The baseball offseason is so slow moving. Like, you get like a spurt of like a lot of moves, and then for the most part it's a long distance before you see anything else happen again. So we didn't get those like subsequent moves right away. So we're like, oh my God, what's happening? And the Mets don't really leak a whole lot. Like, we don't hear a whole lot.
They're very close.
It's weird. Like, David Stearns came in and like killed all the rats. It was crazy.
So let's go ahead and pivot, guys. I want to hit. So Jaron, I saw that you broke. You didn't break the news. Obviously, you're not that. I would love for you to be that type of inside reporter, but I saw your post about Jorge Polanco. Give me your thoughts about Jorge Polanco. Give me your thoughts about the 2-year, $40 million deal, and how he can be able to really help us balance out the bottom half of our lineup. Because it's one thing like we can all agree on here in this panel. The bottom half of that lineup last year was god-awful. Yeah. And if we can be able to get a lot more consistency, I believe that that's a team that made the playoffs last year. So if we can be able to fix that and get more balance in our lineup, you can catch lightning in a bottle, right? So thoughts on the Jorge Polanco move?
Yeah, I really like the Jorge Polanco move. That's a solid add to this offense. You could argue that the most consistent weak point of our lineup has been that DH spot over the last 4 seasons. They've had, as I laid out in the post today, 93 OPS plus, which means they were 7% below league average from that DH spot. Whereas, Jorge Polanco was like around 15% above league average. So that 25 spot jump makes a big difference from being a glaring weakness to an actual strength in the lineup. So
absolutely,
I love making an average spot in the lineup. Now they're making that a strength in the lineup, that DH spot. So I'm very happy about it. But again, elephant in the room is that we already brought in a second baseman in Marcus Semien. Jeff McNeil's already here. So even that move alone doesn't actually fill a positional need, still leads to more question marks. He's not going to be able to play first base, occupy that at the level that Pete Alonso did. He's just not even the first baseman. I think even throwing him out there as a potential first base replacement is a bit perplexing. I'm not really sure if I buy it. Again, as a DH bat, I love it. If that is the guy who's supposedly the first base replacement for Pete Alonso, doesn't make sense for that position that you were also telling fans that you want to improve defensively at, which was a factor in not retaining Pete Alonso. So that doesn't make much sense. And I got to see what else Stearns does from here. I want to see some pitching. I'm fine with the lineup. I agree. I was fine with it even before they got rid of Alonso and Nimmo. I actually love the lineup. Now I like it too. It'll be tough to replace Nimmo and Alonso. I think Semien and Polanco in here is a solid start.
Yeah.
Let's see what else they could do. Bellinger would be huge. He's a no-brainer in terms of what the Mets need right now. We'll see if they can land him. But I got to see some pitching. That's where I'm at.
100%.
There's some news right here that we'll get to. It says this name is wild. Explosive Diarrhea 4671 says it sucks that we're out on King. Is that fact that we're out on Michael King? Is that true?
I saw a report out there. We don't know what's true, I guess, right now, but I did see a report out there that the Mets are out on Michael King.
Is it the years?
I saw that the 3 AL East teams are in on him.
Goodness gracious.
That's
bad, man. Like, that's what frustrates me. You know what I'm saying? Like, Michael King is a prototypical David Stearns type of pitcher, right?
Yeah.
Like he's a reclamation project. What we talk about, like a bullpen guy that has now stretched out to be a starter. Had a very subpar 2024, but his 2023, his 2025, but his 2024 was really, really good, right? As a starter. So that's a guy that I'm like, man, he does fit the David Stearns model, and we're out on him. It's just like, come on, bro. Like, that's where it concerns me, and that's where the whole negotiator thing comes into play, is that what are you telling these people? What are the talks behind the scenes? What is the plan that you're selling that these players are not buying? That's what concerns me. You know what I mean? Because if it's not Michael King, then now, okay, we're going to go ahead and pivot to trades, which means that you now have to empty out the cabinet of prospects to just go get trades. That's fine, but you still need to make some free agent acquisitions as well. You can't just have a whole team full of trade pieces. You just can't do that, because you're going to literally empty out your cabinet. You have to make some splashes. And I'm really concerned now, because if it's not Michael King, then are we in on Imai? Are we going to get him? Are we going to call for the 6 years that it's going to take to get him? So these are things that are very concerning to me. It really is. Like, I thought that Michael King would be a great addition here, and the fact that we're out on him is just, it now leaves us below ground zero.
And they were even on Michael King last offseason as well. They were linked to him. I think he's been on their big board for a while, and it's shocking, because, like you said, he fits that David Stearns profile, very similar actually to the Clay Holmes story. You're talking about former Yankee reliever, convert into a starter. He's actually been very successful as a starter when he's been on the field, and he's pitched at a pretty high level these last 2 seasons as a starting pitcher. So you would think that a guy like that would be all over, Stearns would be all over him. I still will say, to be in fairness, and I do agree that they should King's a guy that should be all over because he fits the Stearns profile. I think they need an innings eater, someone who could go out there, consistently throw
Valdez
6+ innings. So to me, Framber Valdez has always been a match made in heaven for
absolutely.
He's pitched in the big games before. He's a veteran presence. Is he on that Skubal level, that Paul Skeens level? No, not quite, but he's probably on that second tier of top star pitchers in the league that you would like to have pitching for your squad. I know he had some clubhouse chemistry issues. He had that whole thing where he threw at the catcher's head after kind of a miscommunication between him and the catcher in Houston. That was late last season. I'm not really buying this whole thing that he's a terrible clubhouse guy. It's not something we've even heard until like recently.
Yeah.
And if I'm the Mets, like, I'm taking my gamble on the guy who's consistently proven to be one of the game's most reliable, consistent, and durable starting pitchers. That's exactly what this rotation needs.
Yeah.
And me personally, if I was David Stearns, I've already decided a while ago that this is still a win-now team with Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor. And you have the game's best pitcher in baseball floating on the trade market right now in Tarek Skubal. And you're out here promoting this farm system that you're calling one of the best in the league. And even ESPN's now ranking the #1 farm system in baseball. Is there a better time than now to go out there and land that guy as your ace? You didn't do a Garrett Crochet last year, who was the best pitcher on the trade or free agent market. Best pitcher.
Another fail. That was a big fail for me.
Huge.
They should have been all over that with the same farm system. Yeah. So now we fast forward a year later, there's an even better pitcher on the market. And only maybe 3 teams in baseball could realistically afford to give him that contract tomorrow that he's seeking. And we're definitely one of those with Steve Cohen's billions. I don't know what more you could ask for in terms of a perfect guy out there. But it all comes back, Barry, to our main point. Stearns and his negotiating. He has to negotiate a trade for a Skubal. And on top of that, the free agents, not the free agency, but the contract extension, which has to be included in that deal. There's no way you dump all that prospect capital for Skubal if there's no guarantee that he's staying long term.
Yeah, you have to have an agreement.
Skubal's a Boris guy, though, right?
Yeah, he is a Boris guy.
There's no way he's going to sign.
Boris there is some type of he will go ahead and entertain an extension if we're talking about whatever the market value projected out would be, right? Like, let's project that if Skubal's market is going to be $450 million, the Mets sign him to $450 million over 11 years right now. That's what his market would be anyway. So if you get that in an extension, there's no need to hit free agency, right? If you're
true. That's true. But I mean, anytime and we're in the same just entire league as the LA Dodgers. So I just genuinely can't believe that they're going to trade for Skubal. And then sure, Scott Boras will probably listen to offers from the Mets to extend him, but I can't imagine he's going to say, hey, take this deal now. Even though there's an ownership group with the Dodgers that's willing to spend God knows how much money. It doesn't matter. Like literally they just print money for the Dodgers. So and because it's Scott Boras, I'm just hesitant to believe that they're going to be able to sign him in season. But that being said, do it. Just trade whatever you can. I mean, I'm not crazy about trading Nolan McLean, but trade what you can.
I think Nolan McLean will be off.
I don't think Skubal's market will change that much in the next year, though. I don't think it really makes a difference if he waits. Honestly, if the $400 million plus offer is there, that's what they're seeking, and there's no way you're going to get more than that. So
that's going to be
if
the
you're
start.
Steve Cohen, it comes down to negotiating. If you're Steve Cohen, you give Stearns a call and you're like, look, we're going to extend Skubal. I just talked to Boras. We're going to do whatever, because this is what you're supposed to get when you have the richest owner in baseball.
Yeah.
They're comparing this guy to George Steinbrenner, right? This is what George Steinbrenner would do following a collapse.
Oh yeah,
this is what he would do. You have a glaring weakness at the top of your rotation. Best pitcher in baseball is out there. He's in a smaller market that can't afford him. And do you honestly believe if the Tigers offered him a $400 million offer right now, he would reject it? I don't think he would. I think it comes down to the fact that he has a price range he's looking for. Detroit's clearly not in the same stratosphere.
Yeah. It starts at 400 for him.
Yeah,
that's what I'm hearing. It starts.
I think if he got that offer right now, because it'll probably his value is going to go down a year from now, even if he comes back with this season, because he's closer to being in his 30s. And once pitchers hit their 30s, as we know, David Stearns and his logic, he doesn't like going after them because they seem to hit a downfall, around 33, 34. So that's why they're always cautious about giving pitchers that contract into their 30s. He's going to be a year closer to that. I think, what is he, 28 now? He'll be 29.
Yeah.
So I think his value is as high as it's going to be right now. I don't know. I think if you give him a $450 million offer, even a $400 million offer, I just don't see him rejecting it.
I agree. I generally would agree with you. That's a crazy amount of money, and it would be for a crazy amount of years. So I tend to agree with you, but I just look at the history of Scott Boras clients, and most of them go to free agency at the end of the year. And again, but even with all of that said, I would still, the Mets need to make that move 10 times out of 10.
You got to make a splash.
Like, we need a real starting pitcher at the top of this rotation. And if it's between like sign Framber Valdez or give up a lot of the farm for Skubal, go give up the farm for Skubal, because the guy's the best pitcher in baseball.
I'll get both. I would get both.
Exactly.
I would love that. That would be amazing.
In today's baseball, we need a solid big three heading up against the Dodgers or anyone in the playoff series. You got Nolan McLean, who still made only 8 starts. And then who do you have who you're confident with going to a playoff series, especially against the Dodgers? You need 2 premier starters. And that's why I'm perplexed that Stearns is adding even more things to address on his plate, because that's already hard enough for him. He's not a guy who goes out and lands big-time starting pitchers historically. No. So now we're expecting him to get 2 premier guys in the same offseason that he's also going to have to replace Nimmo, Diaz, and supposedly make defensive adjustments to the roster. It's a lot. It's a lot in one offseason to do.
I'm going to piggyback off of what you guys said. The one area that I am extremely confident with David Stearns in is building the farm system. So if he goes ahead and goes to get Tara Skubal and gives up, 5 or 6 of our top prospects, right? I have all the confidence in the world that he's going to go ahead and replenish that farm system and make it even stronger, right? So that's why when he's, we're in trade talks, I'm comfortable with that, because I know that this farm system is still going to be okay in the years to come, because we have a lot of good pitchers down there. We have a lot of good position players, a lot of good outfielders. So I know that he has a talent for that, where he can be able to replenish that. So that's where Jaron is right in regards to go get both of them. Go get a Framber Valdez. Go get a Skubal, and just go balls to the wall. But if it's not that, let's go ahead and go talk about the latest rumors right now. San Diego Padres, they are up. They are open for business in regards to all of their pitching. So, we got Nick Pivetta, who we should have signed last year. I'm just going to put that out there. You have Mason Miller, who I am dying for. And you have, I think there's several other guys that are open for business. So, Jaron, what do you think about the possibility of us nailing 2 or 3 of these guys from San Diego?
Yeah, I think if you're talking about a replacement for Edwin Diaz, I think Mason Miller is a guy where if you get him, you pair him up with Devin Williams. Also, a lot of that chatter about losing Edwin Diaz goes away automatically, right? Now you have a bullpen. I think you can make an argument as strong as last year's, replacing Helsley and Diaz with Williams and Mason Miller in that back end. Obviously, still has to fortify the rest of it, especially after missing out on his other guy, Tyler Rogers, who he gave up 3 prospects for, not to even attempt to bring him back, which was a bit perplexing to me. But, I think they're definitely a trade fit for the Mets when you look at even a guy like Ramon Laureano, who played a solid corner outfield. Big-time slugger.
He reminds me of a Jesse Winker. Like, you want him on your team because he's one of those type of like bulldog players. So definitely like him.
And you could replace Nimmo and Edwin Diaz in one swoop in that trade, right?
Yeah.
Like
he has a cannon.
Yeah, and he's essentially that Nimmo replacement that you're asking for. You don't have to suddenly sign Cody Bellinger unless maybe he's your first baseman.
Yeah.
If you're able to get those 2 guys in the same trade, that's great. As for Nick Pivetta, I think he's a solid starting pitcher, but we have a lot of number 3, number 4 starters right now. I want a true ace. I think we're at a point where you don't even really get anything done if you're not getting that true ace caliber guy. It doesn't really move the needle for me. I feel just as confident right now with this rotation, whether you get a Michael King or Nick Pivetta, they kind of even out. They're kind of like this very similar profiles as starters. I still feel like we need an ace. Would I like Pivetta in that trade? I'm not against it, but me personally, I would love to get Mason Miller. I'd love to get Laureano and even another guy in that bullpen. They have a few great arms in that bullpen. There's others in that potential trade being discussed. If you get the multiple arms, that'd be great. Yeah. Laureano,
sure. Am I wrong? But I think Nick Pivetta is an innings eater too, right?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Because I think he had 190 strikeouts last year, was pretty decent. But I think he had 170 innings. So I mean, that's not bad. It's not bad. Something like that.
Yeah, I just don't know if he has that consistency where he's done it enough throughout his career where we're confident, okay, he's our guy. That's where him and Framber Valdez are different, where Valdez has consistently been that guy. And even at his age, he's not showing signs of regression in that area. But I believe Pivetta was, for what it's worth, he pitched a lot of innings last season. I think he was up there with some of the league's best. I don't think he was like top 10, but I think he was like maybe top 20, top 30 in innings pitched.
Yeah, because I think he had a sub 3 ERA. So but his expected numbers were a little higher, but that's fine, right? Like he had a decent year. But the biggest thing I think with Pivetta, which I think works in our favor if we do get a Pivetta, is the fact that we have the Red Sox pitching coach. And that in itself is going to help him because he was in their system for a little bit. They know each other. So there is some familiarity here, right? To where you can be able to get the most out of a Nick Pivetta because the guy that unlocked him is now on the Mets, right? So those are things that you're like, okay, I can buy into this if they do get him. But Mason Miller is the grab. Like you need him. You need him for sure. Laureano, like you need these guys. You need to make sure that you're getting some good quality bulldog type of baseball players. We have to get guys that are dogs. I think if we have a team full of dogs, you give yourself a chance to be very, very good.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Honestly, like I was really sold on this trade when I first heard it. I think I had a cousin tell me yesterday that it was Mason Miller and Ramon Laureano at first, and I was like, "Oh, awesome, get him here." And then I heard Nick Pivetta and the other guys, and then I was like, "Cool, let's add to it. Let's keep going." Yeah. But I think that's what kind of makes me excited is because we kept here again because we heard out of the winter meetings that David Stearns is really working the trade market, and this is kind of like I feel like the first like major kind of trade that we're really talking about right here. And I'm really curious to see if if this one does happen. Does he pivot to another one? Like, where are we going from here? I'll be refreshing Twitter for the next however many days until it does or doesn't happen.
Yeah, definitely. So, all right, guys, let's go ahead and let's talk about the Japanese imports that we have here. We have Murakami and we have Kazuma Akamoto. Out of those 2 guys, or Imai as well as the pitcher, out of those 3 guys, what what guy has the highest percentage of landing with the Mets? So I'll start with Jaron.
I would say, I don't know. I mean, it's been kind of quiet on that front recently, and that's
really like unusually quiet, right?
Weird.
That's why I'm wondering if there's now more stuff coming out in terms of their expected production at the major league level compared to what they were doing in Japan. I would say off the top of my head, Murakami is the guy I'd be the most confident in landing here, just because the Mets have been linked to him even before the offseason started. I believe that David Stearns, he was scouting, I'm sure, multiple guys in Japan, but I'm pretty sure he was one of the main guys when he was out there in August. It was Murakami specifically. And even back then, people were predicting he would be the go-to Pete Alonso replacement.
Absolutely.
So I have to believe that they're still at least in the mix for Murakami. And I'm not really buying. There was a report or at least a tweet that came out that kind of went viral of someone saying that Murakami bats below 100 versus guys who throw 93 miles per hour plus. I believe that was also disputed, though. But again, in terms of the Japanese market, like, I'm really not sure. I think it's a tough one to predict because we've heard nothing on that front recently. Yeah.
What about you, Tom?
I tend to agree with them. I think it would probably end up being Murakami. I kind of want Amai. I would love them to try and get Amai just because I like that I like it that it's going to be a guy that's coming here and is going to try and stick it to the Dodgers. Like that makes me for nothing else. Like that makes me really happy. Like, cool, come to Queens and we're going to try to take down the evil empire. But I think it'll probably be Murakami. It just, as cool as he is, because when Mets first got linked to him, I just was watching video after video of this dude hitting just tanks and just being cool when he did it. You know what I mean? Just like being flashy, being a fun time to watch at the ballpark. It just, as exciting as that sounds to me, it makes me, I just don't know. Like if you brought in Jorge Polanco to be, they say that he's going to play first base, but if he's going to DH a lot, Murakami is a DH. Like the dude is Japanese Kyle Schwarber. He's a butcher in the field. Like, I don't know how we can say we want to get better defensively and then bring in a guy that is, I said it was Schwarber, but make him Japanese Pete Alonso where he is bad defensively at first, but he's going to hit a lot of home runs. Like, how do you tell me that you care about run prevention when you're getting a guy that can't field, you know? But if he's going to DH, if he's going to actually just DH, I'm a little more cool with it.
Yeah, I mean, I like your answers. My answer is going to be a little different. I like Imai, I like Murakami, but Akamoto's my guy just because Akamoto is a David Stearns style player, versatility, right? You want defensive versatility. You want position versatility. He can play third. He can play first. Like he has his advanced metrics in regards to defensive wins above replacement are really, really good, right? They say that he has a very, very major league ready swing where they said that he can be able to, that there's not going to be any kind of hold up. He can be able to translate well to the major league level. He has like a David Wright level swing. So if you say David Wright to me, get him here. Like, you know what I mean? Like those are the things that, like, once I heard that, I was like, all right, enough. Like, sign him right now. Because that right there, if you go get a guy like Akamoto, you can do so many different things. Obviously, you know, now you can be able to say, okay, Vientos is now definitely a trade piece. You have Brett Beatty, who now becomes a guy who, you know, you can figure out what you're going to do, whether he's going to be another trade piece, which a lot of teams would be interested in a Brett Beatty, right? So now you put yourself in more of an advantageous situation to make a big trade if you go get a guy like Akamoto, because now you can be able to move him around and not worry about that you're going to lose anything defensively. Those are the things that you want to see happen. So that's the guy that I would want out of the three. Obviously, all three of these guys are amazing. The biggest thing for me about Murakami is that his posting date is coming up on the 22nd, and we've heard nothing. Like, that's a week away. So I'm curious to know if we're going to hear a lot more, you know, rumblings or things get hot, you know, in the coming days with him, because, you know, if he's not signed by the 22nd, he goes back. So, you know, we'll see what happens there.
And don't they all have a signing period around that same time? Like, it has to be coming up for all of them.
Whatever day they were posted, they have a month or 2 or whatever it is to be able to get signed or something like that. Yeah.
Right. So it's odd how quiet it's been on that front. If we don't see any news on that in the coming days, who knows if they're going to sign and who's going to sign them.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the Mets linked to him as much though. So while I'm inclined to agree with you, there hasn't really been any buzz there between him and the Mets.
Nah, it's true. But even like we just haven't heard anything with anybody. It's the weirdest thing that I've seen in the last few years when we've gotten more Japanese and you know what I mean? Like it's really strange. You know what I mean? So it might be quiet for a reason. Maybe there's moves being done and we're gonna hear that in the next couple of days, but we'll see. What is so out of the free agents that are available? We know the Framber Valdez's, we understand the Cody Bellingers, the Kyle Tuckers. Is there any other guys at the position? Because I know Jaron is talking about we got to get pitching, right? Is there anybody that you would say that if David Stearns were to get this guy, or even let's not even talk about David Stearns, you as a GM, who would you like to see them fill out this roster with due to the like based on the guys that are available in the free agency market right now? Anybody can be able to take this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if I have enough players right now that I would consider like filling out an entire team. I really want Cody Bellinger on the Mets really bad. I think he fills so many holes. It's a cliche at this point, but he is a David Stearns player. The dude can play outfield. He could play first base. The dude hits. He is a little streaky, which kind of makes me a little nervous, but I need Cody Bellinger here, and I need Framber Valdez at this point. Like we've just mentioned before, like we really need we need somebody that can be the top of that rotation, that's going to give us innings, that's going to be a stopper. They just do not have that, and they desperately need it. So they obviously need more, but those are literally the first two that I'm thinking of. You mentioned earlier before we started recording, Ryan O'Hearn. I'd be down for that if he's going to play first base. The dude, what did he do last year? I had it just pulled up.
I think it's 17
281, 17 home runs. If he's going to play a good first base, that's totally fine with me.
Right.
But yeah, if we can do like a Framber, Bellinger, O'Hearn offseason, sign me up. Let's go.
What about you, Jaron?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Bellinger's a clear fit for what the Mets need right now. I agree with you on Framber Valdez. I even made a post about this a few weeks ago before the Edwin Diaz, Pete Alonso madness. Framber Valdez is a perfect fit for the Mets. He's still roaming out there in the market. Why not get him right now? I mean, it's clear what the Mets rotation needs. They need a guy who's just going to go in there every fifth day, throw 6 innings, more often than not, get a productive start out of him, and really set the tone for that starting rotation. It's so important that they get a guy like that. And it's easier to just pay a guy like that than to go out there and make a trade for a Scooble, and then on top of that, pay for a guy on top, with the extension. So here's another thing I want to throw at you guys. Another idea just crossed my mind here in this post Alonso world. What about the idea of grabbing Alex Bregman and then really shaking things up? Right, you need that big right-handed bat.
I like
Obviously, when you talk about a guy replacing Pete Alonso level, you missed out on Schwarber. Jorge Polanco is a nice piece, but in terms of being that guy in the middle of that lineup to replace Pete Alonso's
professional hitter, you're
talking about one of the best sluggers in the entire game. Or you can make a valid argument that he's the best slugger in Mets franchise history, especially the best to come out of their system. So I don't know. I think if you want to make a splash and really sell the fan base, okay, you guys had a plan B. You get Alex Bregman, stick him at third base, and then you throw both Vientos and Beatty and McNeil, all of them on the trade market, and you see what you could flip. I think it's easier to fill the gap in outfield, as you mentioned earlier. I think it's easier to fill that gap of Nimmo's presence in the outfield. But in terms of that middle of the lineup guy who could replace Alonso, Alex Bregman, even though he's not a positional fit, Stearns has proven to us that he doesn't really care about positional fit at this point. He'll somehow piece together something to make it work later. So I'm at the point now where I'm just like going out like a fantasy.
Just get anybody, right?
Who's the guy's one market?
Before.
Get him. I don't know. Nothing makes sense anymore. Why not get Alex Bregman? We need a right-handed bat in that lineup. Gives you flexibility.
That was actually my pick, Jaron. My Bregman was my guy, but the only concern that I have with Bregman has nothing to do with his talent on the field, right? It has nothing to do with that. He just came off a short deal with the Red Sox. Is he going to take another short deal again because he opted out trying to get something a lot more long-term. We are not in the long-term business with anybody, especially in Alex Bregman. So if he's willing to take a 3-year deal, then great, right? But I don't see that happening. I think that he's going to wait the market out as long as he did last year, the same as he did. He's probably going to do the same thing this year. And that's what concerns me, is that David Stearns is just not somebody who's going to say, you know what, this guy is such a good player. I don't give a shit about if he wants a 5th year. Give it to him anyway, because we're just going to, you know, we're going to be beneficial for the first front years of that contract, and we'll worry about the back end of that deal. He's not that type of GM. And that's what concerns me, is that I'm sure we would probably got somebody else by now if he thought that way. Oh, Cody, okay, he wants 6. Let's give him 6, and then we'll think about the back end later. He's not that guy. He's like, well, I want you for 3 years because I think that you're going to be good for 3 years, so we're going to give you a 3-year contract. That he really just doesn't understand how free agency works. Like, free agency is, you always have to overbid for guys. Even if you don't want to, you have to. Like, you're never going to win negotiations in free agency when it comes to big free agents, because they're saying, okay, I want 6. Well, we only want to give you 3. No, I want 6. Right. Because if you don't give me 6, then somebody else will give me. I don't care where I go to get the 6. I'll go get it. Right. So if you want a player, you have to bite the bullet sometimes and give into something that you want, because at the end of the day, you're getting the player. So you're going to get some maximum years out of him. And even if the back end looks terrible, it doesn't fucking matter. But we don't have a GM that understands that concept. And that's what concerns me. You know what I mean? So it's like, we can talk about Bregman, we can talk about this guy, but it's the years for everybody that it's just like, I don't think we're going to get anybody because of how he looks at the game.
Well, I would say that we were just talking about how quiet it is with the Japanese players. I think the only thing that would be closer is the Alex Bregman market. Like, it just is not. I haven't really heard anybody that's trying to throw money and years at Alex Bregman. I wouldn't blame David Stearns for just trying to ride the market and see even if he's interested, ride the market and see what Alex Bregman's going to be asking for. Because I don't even think we've heard like anybody offering him anything like years, money. I haven't seen anything about
strangely quiet for a lot.
That's what I'm saying. And I would love Alex Bregman simply because the dude, like you said, professional hitter, and he's won before. Like, I think it matters when you bring guys into a clubhouse that have won at the highest level before.
Changes everything.
Exactly. So I would love that. So I'm totally on board. I would just, again, Stearns, wait it out and see what's going to happen, because I'm not going to negotiate against myself and just start throwing numbers at Alex Bregman if nobody else is. Like, if he decides to wait it out and we get closer to spring training and Bregman's like, oh God, I really need to play and make money here. Stearns could just be like, here you go. I got a deal for you. 3 years. Take it again. Let's go. You could run it back at the end of the year 1 or 2.
Yeah, it's tough for me to see Bregman even getting anything beyond a 5-year contract at this point. Seeing the way things played out with Alonso and Schwarber, it seems to be, for his profile, 5 years is the range. He's entering his age 32 season. He's no spring chicken anymore. Like, he's getting up there. I still believe that he definitely has at least three solid or really good years in the tank offensively. Who knows what we get at 4th, 5th year, but I don't even care if I'm David Stearns, because number one, I don't even know if I'll be here 4 years from now. I don't even know if I'll be here a year from now. You got to make a move at some point. This is a World Series team. You have Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor in their primes, and by the way, we're going to be paying those guys years past their primes as well. So my whole thing is, stay consistent on your logic. You already determined years ago, Steve Cohen, that you are a win now team, and you can't let David Stearns just shake up your entire identity, because you've already committed $1 billion to Soto and Alonso in their prime. Make the most of it. And also, you're going to get penalized either way through the luxury tax. You're going to get knocked down 10 spots in the draft. That's going to impact your ability to build a roster in the future as well. So you're already sacrificing that as it is. You might as well make the most of building the roster and making the most of Soto and Lindor's primes. We already clearly wasted Pete Alonso's prime here. That's not going to happen again. And and I see someone just commented, you can't run the same team back after that collapse. I will always say this. I think all they had to do was address the pitching. Just because of the nature of the modern day baseball GM, Moneyball, whatever you want to call it, the way David Stearns operates, he felt like he had to do a lot more than what he actually needed to do. And maybe it's to Barry's point, he just doesn't want to negotiate, and he rather, plug the puzzle pieces away elsewhere. But I don't know. I feel like he created an impossible offseason for himself to deliver on with the amount of work that needs to be done to a team that already went backwards.
It's kind of what I said on one of my Instagram posts. I said, as Met fans, we're looking for the big move to happen in free agency. I said, David Stearns already had his free agency. You see all the minor league contract deals that he that is his market right there. That's where he gets busy. He loves that. Like anytime you see those deals, he's jumping for joy for those deals because he loves the bargain shop. That's his thing. Bargain bazaar Stearns. So it's you can't
have it both ways. If you set this tone like we're transactional, we're a cold-hearted business, and if you don't perform here, if we don't win, we're out, then you have to outspend and other people to get the free agent you want, because that's the tone that you're setting. Yeah. You have no sense. You clearly don't value the whole sentimental component to it and how fan bases feel about the players they love and guys who've developed and grown throughout the organization for many years, close to a decade now, all three of those guys collectively. Yeah. And Diaz, Nimmo, and Alonso. So you clearly don't value that. You and players around the league definitely don't respect that. You have to go out and outspend whoever else you're competing for to get that free agent, because I'm pretty sure you pointed this out as well, Barry. Like, number one, these players, like they're very deliberate and intentional with what they're doing, and even the coaching staff. I go into the Atlanta Braves right after they leave the Mets. Edwin Diaz going to the Dodgers. Pete Alonso saying that the Baltimore Orioles were head over heels the right fit for him in terms of their culture and how much appreciation they show to him. That is rubbing a lot of people around the league off in a very, very wrong way. And I think the only way they could actually go out and get a free agent right now is by overspending on that free agent, outbidding other people, because no one's going to be like, I'm going to take less money to go to the Mets right now.
Right.
After what they've just done to everyone else.
Yeah. Right. No, that's a fact. That's a fact.
You can't have it both ways. Like either way, well, we could beat around the bush all we want. At some point, David Stearns will have to pull the trigger on a big time move that's going to require him to give up serious prospect capital and or money. Right. So writing's on the wall. He's got to do something. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think what again, like I said before, what I said earlier, I think we're lucky with the fact that it's only December 14th and we got plenty of time for all that stuff. We've been beaten down since the season ended with how they have all of these resources to make all of these moves. To make all of these moves and make this team better. That's all we keep hearing. And now we have to see those resources get used. And just because they're not out here dictating what their entire plan is to us, to the fans. I mean, I don't know many teams that actually do that. Doesn't mean that there isn't one. It doesn't mean that they can't create a contender come spring training, come day one of the season. You know what I mean? I'm more curious. Like, I was, again, so sad that those players left, but I'm excited to see what the next era of Mets baseball is, what they're going to build to tell me, okay, that's a contender. Because if I remember, I mean, Barry, how I think back to 2024, you and I were pretty skeptical about what this Mets were going to be. And in the beginning, that's exactly what we got.
I had no expectations.
Exactly. And then they wound up surprising us. Like this year, you're kind of going in like, I've got crazy expectations right now because the team doesn't look that bad. So we'll see what happens when we actually get to opening day.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, listen, I am beyond the outrage of the Diaz, the Nimmo, the Alonso thing. I am more about, okay, if you want to go ahead and build it your way, let's see what you got. Let's see what you got in the biggest market in sports. Let's see what you got. Because if you can be able to do it here, then you have written your own check in regards to being the kingmaker, right? If you can do it here, then David Stearns is literally going to be the king of baseball. So let's go ahead and see if you can be able to do what you think you can do. It is exciting because I'm curious to see where it goes. I'm curious to see who we're going to have come spring training. I want to see what trades are being made. I want to see what team or, what players are not going to be here. Like, the one thing that I want, if David Stearns is listening, send Jeff McNeil to Mars. I don't care where he goes.
Absolutely.
Just make sure you put a rocket to his back and send him somewhere because I want him off this team. So if that can happen, I'll be very, very happy. And I'm curious to see how the team, builds itself, how it's constructed, what pitchers we get, who steps up, and all this other stuff. So, final words, guys. This was great.
Final words is I am super, again, as the days go on, I am more and more excited with what this offseason is going to ultimately look like, because now we're starting to hear the rumblings of, the Mets trying to actively make trades, and again, not just sitting on their hands and losing players. Like, I think we've gotten through the loss of players portion of the Mets offseason, and now it's going to be about adding and getting this team to where they want to be, because I think the big thing here is the Mets themselves acknowledge that they're not there. The Mets themselves acknowledge that work has to be done to make this team better. Steve Cohen said that there's still a lot of offseason left to build a playoff contender. So their objective right now is to get a team that's going to be competitive to just make the playoffs, because I know we all want to talk about competing with the Dodgers and winning a World Series. We also have to remember that we're the Mets, and we have to just be lucky to make the playoffs. We have to have a team that can make the playoffs, and then once that happens, I can start daydreaming about winning and getting to a World Series. But we don't get that very often. Give me a contender, and I'll be able to move forward from there. So
just
I'm
to
excited.
piggyback on what you said, Tom, that's great. Like, instead of us trying to build Marvel Studios in a day, let's just see if we can be able to get some hits in regards to being DC, right? Just put some hits together.
Exactly. Like,
put some hits together and see how we can build
can't be
thing.
the Queens. We can't be the Queens Brewers. I don't want to be the Queens Brewers, but the Brewers have been a good team for a while. The Bruins have The Brewers have been a good team for a while, a consistent team for a while, and a contending team for a while. I would love that. I mean, again, 2 times in their history have the Mets made it to the playoffs back-to-back years. I want that to be dead and buried.
Something has to change. Yeah.
Something has to change. The culture, the vibe of this team, and the vibe of the has to change. So we're in that process. Give me that change. You're telling me we're making the playoffs, or we're building a playoff contender. Let's see it happen. Let's see. I'll make my final decision and my final opinions opening day of the season.
Definitely. Jaron, final thoughts?
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's fair. It is still as we've talked about, it's so early in the baseball offseason just because of the dreadful, never-ending nature of it.
Yeah.
And as Mets fans, I feel like we all wanted more of a break from the trauma of last season and following it up with more trauma. We're not even at Christmas yet, and a lot of us have already given up on the season. And here's what I think overall about the state of the Mets: their cold-hearted transactional approach is not going to ever sit well with the fan base or players around the league. And yes, I know, Tom, as you mentioned, it's not typical of teams to have almost like a State of the Union address to their fan base. Like, here's where we're currently at. Here's the plan.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, we need an explanation. I mean, people around the league are absolutely puzzled right now. And for the Mets to not even extend Pete Alonso an offer, it's insane. Like, imagine telling someone in the Wilpon era, 2011 peak Wilpon era and the Madoff days, hey, in 15 years or so from now, you're going to have the richest owner in baseball history to replace the Wilpons, and there's going to be a guy that walked through your organization by the name of Pete Alonso who will eclipse David Wright, and in the prime of his career, 1 year after nearly making the World Series, you won't even attempt to bring him back. It's just craziness on top of what happened with Edwin Diaz. So yeah, I think that stuff is important, because it's not just it's a business they're running. They can't really factor in how the fans feel. It was a bad baseball decision and a bad business decision. So you punched us on both sides of the face there, I think, and I think every fan's had the right to be upset. And David Stearns needs to have a Hall of Fame offseason from this point forward to save himself.
He has a lot to prove. Yeah,
he won't be here a year from now. It's my prediction with the way things have gone. I mean, like I said, he needs to bring in 2 premier starting pitchers. 2, I think we need at the top of our rotation. I'm saying ace caliber guys, or at least guys that you're confident with going into a playoff series, because there's no point of even getting to the playoffs paying Soto and Lindor $1 billion if you don't plan on actually making a run, surrounding himself, those guys with pieces to make a run. And I get that we have to start somewhere, but we already started. We went to the World Series again. 2024 was not a long time ago, and they didn't lose to the Dodgers because of their offense. I think they really lost because they got outclassed with their starting rotation. So I'm just going to keep beating that drum until the drum is no longer working or functioning. We need starting pitching. He needs to fortify a bullpen, needs to replace Pete Alonso in terms of getting that bona fide slugger in the middle of their lineup. Needs to replace Brandon Nimmo's presence in the outfield. Probably replace Edwin Diaz with a Mason Miller type closer in the back end, especially as we talked about how he missed out on Robert Suarez. I would say I think he's freaking out a little bit right now because I genuinely believe that his backup plan for Diaz was Suarez if he missed out on him. And I do believe that instead of Pete Alonso, he thought he had a real chance at landing Schwarber. And now that they missed out on both, I do agree that I honestly think his head's spinning right now. So, yes, he has time to figure it out. I don't know if there's a plan in place. I believe that's why they're not actually talking to the fans right now, and that's why it's felt so cold on their end. I think they're also a bit shocked and reacting in real time. But I don't know. We will not, as you said, Tom, we have to be completely fair on all sides. And until we actually see the roster on opening day, we have to let, I guess, the artist finish his painting, as a lot of Mets fans have been saying. And Stearns is just painting away here. But I don't know. Negotiation-wise, we got to see what he can prove because he's got to land someone for sure, someone big.
Yeah. Listen, again, as Met fans, we can feel the way we feel. We're gonna miss our guys. There is a balance that I believe that an organization and a front office has to go ahead and strike. You have to pay attention to the fan base, and you also have to build a winner, a contender if you actually care about winning. So. Going forward, when David Stearns does find his guy, and if he's the GM or the president for the next decade plus, you're going to have guys that have been here, have been developed here, that you're going to have to look at and say, this is a lifetime player here. And no matter if we don't want to go the 10 years for this contract, this player has earned the right to get that contract and retire a Met, right? So he has to. If he didn't want to do it for guys that he didn't want, he's going to have to do it for guys that he does want. And that's where the funny thing about baseball comes about is that, okay, cool, you build it your way. But when you do get your team, I want to see you look at the fan base and give those fans exactly what they want. And they want a lifetime Met. They want somebody to get called up, develop here, win here, and retire here. That's what we want for all of our great Mets, right? So in closing, just show us. We're going to sit here. We're going to see what the moves are. But I'm telling you right now, I got things on deck waiting, because if this team is not complete by spring training, the gloves are off. There is not going to be, we'll wait to the deadline. No. This is going to be bad. And he has how many months? 3 months? You got 3 months, David Stearns. Clock's ticking.
That's scary.
That Jaron, it's great to have you on the show, man. Like, just give us your give us your socials, where people can be able to find you, all your good stuff.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me on, guys. It was awesome talking Mets baseball with you, and I already feel better after this Mets therapy session. I feel like Tom is a bit more optimistic than us.
Yeah, he definitely is.
It was good getting that perspective from Tom, even though I don't really agree with him on everything. I have to respect and honor the optimism, because that's all we got as Mets fans.
Yeah,
you got to believe. That being said, the play advocate on that one, Barry's right. I think Mets fans are at the point where they are, myself included, ready to boycott. Right, when you start hearing these things like playoff contender, we're moving the goalposts even more. We're going on year 40 of no World Series. Steve Cohen already said it was a 3 to 5 year goal to win a World Series. We're already beyond that. We're now in year 6, and I get that Cohen, he's going to do what he does. He's going to say what he has to say to excite fans, but we got to see it. We got to see it, guys. They have a lot to prove. Yeah. David Stearns might be the most bold Mets president of baseball operations of all time, considering he's completely dismantling a roster that just made the World Series, almost made the World Series just over a year ago. But you have to think that he has some grand plan, even though questioning that, you have to believe there is some level of a plan there. Highest paid executive in the game. We got to see him make some moves. Now we see, now we see the worth of that $10 million salary here.
Definitely. So just drop your socials, because we got a lot of people.
I can talk about all that. Socials are NYM_news on Instagram. That's the main platform. That's also the X or Twitter platform as well. And then on TikTok, we just launched at NYM.news. So
Good,
NYM_news on most platforms.
You'll be definitely successful on TikTok. That's a good space to be on, man. So, shouts to you. Keep pushing it, man. We'll definitely be in contact. We're going to be doing these things a lot more frequently. Me and Tom are launching. Tom, and our other homie, the Silent Assassin. She is going to be here as well. We're going to launch our podcast called Queen's Corner. So, that's going to be something that's going to be really, really cool, man, because she knows her stuff. Tom is the one that gets us off the ledge.
I will admit if we get to spring training and we're and no moves have been made and we're it's going to be very hard to spin zone for you, but I will do my damnedest. I will do my damnedest.
That is your superpower, my friend. You're able to calm us crazy people down and be able to bring some perspective. But like I said, man, this was great, guys. Let's do it again at some point. And to all the people that are in here supporting, that commented, thank you so much. Hopefully you'll be able to join the next stream that we do have. It should be shortly. Whatever news breaks, we'll try to get on here as best as we can. So, until that time, stay safe, stay cool. Peace, y'all.